How can one birthday party joke turn into the moment my marriage ended in public? What starts as me laughing off a harmless touch in front of everyone becomes the spark for a legal finale I never saw coming. Can I really blame him for taking his revenge where everyone could see? I should have known something was off when Marcus suggested we celebrate my 34th birthday at Romano's, the same family restaurant where we'd had our rehearsal dinner 8 years ago. He'd been distant for weeks, buried in his home office, with spreadsheets and phone calls he claimed were work-related. But Marcus had always been the quiet type, methodical in his IT consulting work, so I didn't think much of it. "Odessa, you look amazing tonight," Elliot Drew said as he slid into the booth next to me, his cologne mixing with the scent of garlic bread and wine. He'd been Marcus's childhood friend since they were 12, but lately, our text conversations had grown more frequent and definitely more flirtatious. "Thank you, Elle," I laughed, adjusting my red dress. "Someone has to bring some excitement to this family." Marcus sat across from us, methodically cutting his chicken parmesan into precise squares. His mother, Gina, frowned from the end of the table, her disapproval radiating like heat from a furnace. My sister Talia giggled from her seat, already on her third glass of wine. "Remember when we used to sneak out to the lake?" Elliot's hand found my shoulder, his fingers tracing small circles on my bare skin. "Those were wild times." "Before someone got all responsible and boring," I said, glancing at Marcus. He didn't look up from his plate. "Hey now," Elliot's voice dropped lower. "Some of us still know how to have fun." His hand moved down my back, lingering at the curve of my waist. The table erupted in laughter when I playfully swatted at him. "Elliot Drew, you are terrible." "Just keeping the birthday girl entertained." He grinned, his hand sliding dangerously low on my hip. "Elle, that's enough." Marcus finally spoke, his voice flat and controlled. "Oh, come on, Marcus," I rolled my eyes. "It's just harmless fun. Don't be such a stick in the mud on my birthday." Elliot's fingers traced along my thigh under the table. I should have stopped him, should have moved away, but the attention felt intoxicating after months of Marcus's emotional distance. The wine made everything feel lighter, more amusing than inappropriate. "Odessa," Gina's voice cut through the laughter, "perhaps you should—" "Should what? Enjoy my own birthday party," I interrupted, leaning into Elliot's touch. "Marcus doesn't seem to mind. Do you, honey?" Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His brother Paul watched silently from across the table, his expression unreadable. "Mum, look." 8-year-old Sienna tugged on my arm. "Uncle Paul is taking pictures." I glanced over to see Paul with his phone raised, capturing what he claimed were family memories. Several other family members had their phones out too, documenting the celebration. "Make sure you get my good side," I joked, posing dramatically as Elliot's arm tightened around my waist. "Every side is your good side," Elliot whispered in my ear, his breath hot against my neck. The table dissolved into more laughter and catcalls. Even Talia was filming now, encouraging the show. "You two are hilarious," she called out. "This is definitely going on social media." Marcus stood abruptly. "I need some air." "Oh, don't be dramatic," I waved him off. "We're just having fun." But as the evening wore on and the wine flowed freely, Elliot grew bolder. His hands wandered more freely, and I found myself encouraging it, reveling in the attention and the shocked gasps from some of the older relatives. "Odessa, this is inappropriate," Gina hissed during a lull in conversation. "What's inappropriate is everyone acting like I'm dead just because I'm married." I shot back. "A little harmless flirting never hurt anyone." "Harmless?" Paul's voice was quiet but sharp. "Is that what you call this?" "I call it being alive," I said, allowing Elliot to pull me closer. "Some people might want to try it sometime." When Marcus returned from his walk around the restaurant, his face was carefully composed, almost serene. He sat down and resumed eating as if nothing had happened. "Feeling better?" I asked with mock concern. "Much," he replied, his tone eerily calm. "Just needed to clear my head." The party continued for another hour, with Elliot and me providing entertainment that ranged from playful to borderline scandalous. I was drunk on wine and attention, completely oblivious to the storm I was brewing. As we prepared to leave, Talia showed me her phone. "Look at this video I got of you and Elliot. It's already got 20 likes. I watched myself laughing as Elliot's hands roamed over my body, Marcus sitting stone-faced in the background. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I felt vindicated. Finally, proof that I was still desirable, still fun, still worth pursuing. "Send it to me," I said. "I want to post it on my own page." "Odessa," Marcus's voice was quiet behind me. "We should go." "In a minute," I said, still watching the video. "I'm just enjoying my birthday present from the internet." That night, as I scrolled through the comments and tags on various posts from the party, a notification popped up that made my blood run cold. "You've been tagged in a video on local Gossip Hub." The video was the same one from dinner, but now it had hundreds of views and dozens of comments, most of them far from flattering. Someone had shared it to a local gossip page, and the commentary was brutal. "Is this woman married to the guy in the background? Yikes. Poor husband. He looks miserable. This is embarrassing to watch." I quickly tried to delete the tags and report the video, but screenshots were already circulating. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, co-workers, and distant relatives who had seen the posts. Marcus was in his office, door locked, printer running. When I knocked, he didn't answer. "Marcus, can we talk about this?" Silence. I tried the handle, but it was locked. Through the thin door, I could hear him typing, printing, organizing papers. What could he possibly be doing in there at midnight? The next morning, I found a sticky note on the kitchen counter in Marcus's precise handwriting. "Calendar, downtown, 9 a.m. When I asked him about it over coffee, he simply said, "Work meeting." But Marcus worked from home. He never had downtown meetings. Darwin, Chapter 2, Entertainment or Betrayal. The video had taken on a life of its own. By Tuesday morning, 3 days after my birthday, it had been shared to multiple local Facebook groups and had somehow made its way to a regional gossip blog called Suburban Scandals. "Odessa, people are talking," my co-worker Jennifer whispered as I walked into the insurance office. "That video from your birthday is everywhere." "So?" I shrugged, settling at my desk. People need to get lives if they're that interested in mine. But the truth was, the attention was intoxicating. My phone buzzed constantly with friend requests, comments, and messages. Some were negative, sure, but others were from men telling me how attractive I was, how lucky Elliot was, how they wished they could be in his position. "You're famous," Talia texted with laughing emojis. "The video has over 2,000 views now." I found myself checking the numbers obsessively, refreshing the pages to see new comments. The negative ones I dismissed as jealousy, but the positive attention fed something hungry inside me. At home, Marcus had become a ghost. He left early for his mysterious downtown meetings, returned late, and spent his evenings locked in his office. When I tried to engage him in conversation, his responses were polite but distant. "How was work today?" I asked over dinner Tuesday night. "Productive," he replied, not looking up from his plate. "I got promoted to senior admin today. More money, better benefits." "That's nice." Sienna looked between us, her 8-year-old mind clearly sensing the tension. "Why is Daddy sad?" "Daddy's not sad, sweetheart," I said quickly. "He's just busy with work." But Marcus's expression remained carefully blank, and I caught him making notes in a small leather journal he now carried everywhere. Wednesday brought a new development. I was scrolling through Facebook during my lunch break when I saw that someone had created a poll in one of the local mom groups. "Is this appropriate behavior for a married woman?" With screenshots from the birthday video. The comment section was a battlefield. Some women defended me, saying I had a right to have fun and that Marcus should have spoken up if he was uncomfortable. Others were less kind. "This is what's wrong with marriages today, no respect." "That poor man, He looks humiliated. I'd divorce her in a heartbeat. Someone should tell her husband what kind of woman he married. I screenshot the worst comments and sent them to Talia with angry face emojis. Can you believe these bitter housewives? They're just jealous that their husbands ignore them. Ignore the haters, she replied. You looked amazing and you were having fun. That's what matters. But when I got home that evening, I found Gina's car in our driveway. She was sitting at our kitchen table with Marcus, both of them looking serious. Odessa, Gina stood as I entered. We need to talk. About what? About your behavior at the restaurant, about that video that's all over the internet, about the embarrassment you've brought to this family. I felt my temper flare. Embarrassment? I was celebrating my birthday with friends and family. If you can't handle a little fun... Fun? Gina's voice rose. You call letting another man grope you in public while your husband sits there watching fun. You call humiliating Marcus in front of his daughter fun. Marcus is a grown man. If he had a problem with anything that happened, he could have said something. He did say something. Marcus spoke quietly from his seat. I asked Elliot to stop. You told me not to be a stick in the mud. Because you were being a stick in the mud. It was harmless flirting, Marcus. Elliot and I have been friends for years. Friends don't touch each other like that, Gina said sharply. Married women don't let other men put their hands all over them while their families watch. You're being dramatic, both of you. Marcus stood and walked to his office without another word. I heard the lock click. What's he doing in there all the time? I asked Gina. Her expression was cold. Protecting himself and his daughter, something you should have thought about before you decided to become internet entertainment. After Gina left, I tried Marcus's office door again. Locked. I could hear him on the phone, his voice too low to make out words, but his tone was businesslike and serious. Thursday morning brought a new humiliation. Sienna's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, asked to speak with me during pickup. Mrs. Vining, I wanted to let you know that some of the other parents have been talking about a video they've seen online. My face burned. What does that have to do with Sienna's education? Nothing directly, but children hear things. They repeat things. I just wanted you to be aware that Sienna might be dealing with some social fallout from this situation. Social fallout from what situation? I celebrated my birthday. That's not a crime. Mrs. Patterson's smile was strained. Of course not. I'm just suggesting that perhaps discretion might be helpful for Sienna's sake. That evening, I confronted Marcus directly. People are talking about us at Sienna's school. This has gone too far. He looked up from his laptop. Has it? Yes, you need to do something. Tell people to mind their own business. Defend your wife. Defend you from what, exactly? From these gossips and busybodies who have nothing better to do than judge other people's marriages. Marcus closed his laptop and looked at me for a long moment. Is that what you think this is about? Gossip? What else would it be about? He opened his mouth as if to say something, then seemed to think better of it. I have work to do. Marcus, we need to talk about this. Do we? Because every time I try to express how I feel about what happened, you tell me I'm being dramatic or uptight or boring. So what exactly would you like to talk about? I stared at him, frustrated by his calm demeanor. I want to talk about how to fix this mess. What mess, Odessa? I thought it was just harmless fun. Friday brought the discovery that changed everything. I was cleaning the kitchen when I noticed Marcus had left his office door slightly ajar. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't locked. I slipped inside, my heart pounding. His desk was meticulously organized, covered with file folders, printed emails and legal pads covered in his careful handwriting. In the center of his desk was an open laptop, displaying a spreadsheet titled Exhibits, Incident 1, Birthday Party. My blood turned to ice as I read the entries. Video 1, original file, metadata preserved. Video 2, social media shares, screenshots, text messages. Odessa, Elliot, January-March, witness statements, Paul Vining, restaurant staff, financial records, joint account, suspicious withdrawals. I scrolled down, my hands shaking. There were dozens of entries, each one meticulously documented with dates, times, and file locations. But it was the text message folder that made my knees buckle. He had screenshots of every flirtatious text I'd sent to Elliot over the past 3 months. Messages I thought I'd deleted. Private conversations where I'd complained about Marcus being boring, where I'd encouraged Elliot's advances, where I'd made plans to meet him for coffee when Marcus was at work. "Oh God," I whispered, sinking into Marcus's chair. The messages painted a picture I hadn't wanted to see. Months of emotional infidelity, building to the public display at my birthday party. And Marcus had documented all of it. At the bottom of the spreadsheet was a note. Attorney consultation scheduled. Preserve all evidence. I heard the front door open and quickly closed the laptop, rushing back to the kitchen. Marcus appeared a moment later, carrying a manila envelope. "How was your meeting?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Productive," he replied, placing the envelope on the counter. "Very productive." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Marcus slept peacefully beside me, or pretended to sleep. I couldn't tell anymore. The man I'd dismissed as boring and passive had been quietly building a case against me. Every careless text, every public humiliation, every moment I'd thought I was getting away with something, he'd been watching, documenting, preparing, and I had no idea what he planned to do with all that evidence. Chapter 3. The joke goes public. Monday morning brought a new level of nightmare. I was barely through my first cup of coffee when my phone started buzzing with notifications. The birthday video had been picked up by a larger gossip blog called Regional Revelations, and this time, the commentary was savage. "Local insurance worker's birthday bash goes viral for all the wrong reasons," read the headline, accompanied by screenshots from the video and a detailed breakdown of my inappropriate public behavior. The article had been shared over 500 times in the first hour alone. "Odessa, you need to see this," Talia called me, her voice tight with worry. "They used your full name, and Marcus's. They even mentioned where you work." My stomach dropped as I read the article. They'd done their research, identifying me as an administrative worker at Midwest Mutual Insurance, Marcus as an IT consultant, and even mentioning Sienna by her first initial. The comment section was a cesspool of judgment and speculation. "Someone needs to send this to her husband. He already knows. Look at his face in the video. Poor guy. I'd be filing for divorce papers today. What kind of mother acts like this in public?" I was shaking as I got dressed for work, my hands fumbling with buttons and zippers. This had spiraled so far beyond what I'd intended. What had started as harmless birthday fun was now a regional scandal. At the office, the atmosphere was thick with whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Jennifer avoided eye contact, and my supervisor, Mr. Richardson, called me into his office before 9 a.m. "Odessa, I'm sure you're aware of the situation that's been circulating online." "It's being blown out of proportion," I said quickly. "It was just a birthday party. People are making it into something it wasn't." "The company has received several calls from clients who've seen the video. They're concerned about our professional image." "You're not firing me over a birthday party, are you?" "No, but I'm strongly advising you to consider how your personal conduct reflects on Midwest Mutual. We serve family-oriented clients who expect a certain level of professionalism from our staff." I nodded, my face burning with humiliation. "Of course, I understand." But the damage was spreading. By lunch, 3 different people had sent me links to local Facebook groups where the video was being dissected frame by frame. Someone had even created a slow-motion version, highlighting every inappropriate touch. I tried calling Elliot, desperate to talk to someone who might understand, but he didn't answer. When I texted him, his response was curt. "Think we should lay low for a while. This is getting out of hand." Lay low. You were right there with me. This is as much your fault as mine. I'm not the married one, Odessa. I'm not the one with a family to think about. His words hit like a slap. When the attention had been fun and flirtatious, he'd been eager to participate. Now that there were consequences, he was backing away as fast as possible. That evening, Marcus was in his office again, door locked, printer running constantly. I could hear him on phone calls, his voice professional and measured. When Sienna asked why Daddy was working so much, I didn't have an answer. Some kids at school said mean things about you today, Sienna told me over dinner. They said you were on the computer being bad. My heart shattered. What did you tell them? I said they were lying. You're not bad, Mummy. I pulled her into a hug, fighting back tears. This innocent child was paying the price for my stupid decisions, and I had no idea how to fix it. Tuesday brought a new horror. I was scrolling through Facebook during my lunch break when I saw a post in the Concerned Parents of Lincoln Elementary group. Someone had shared the video with the caption, "Is this the kind of role model we want around our children?" The discussion thread had over 100 comments, many from parents I recognized from school events. They were debating whether I should be allowed to volunteer for school activities, whether Sienna was being properly supervised at home, whether someone should contact Child Protective Services. "This is insane," I texted Talia. "They're talking about calling CPS because I flirted at my birthday party." "Maybe you should talk to Marcus," she replied. "See if he can help calm things down." But when I got home, Marcus was in the living room with his brother Paul, both of them looking at documents spread across the coffee table. They stopped talking when I entered. "What's going on?" I asked. "Just some work stuff," Marcus said, gathering the papers. "Paul's helping me with a project." Paul's expression was cold as he looked at me. "Odessa." "Paul." I tried to keep my voice friendly. "How's Sarah, the kids?" "They're fine. Concerned about Sienna, but fine." "Concerned about Sienna? Why?" "Because kids at their school are talking about the video too. Because our family name is being dragged through the mud on the internet. Because my brother's wife thought it was appropriate to let another man grope her in public while his daughter watched." "Paul," Marcus's voice held a warning. "No, Marcus. Someone needs to say it. This has gone too far." I felt my temper flare. What's gone too far is everyone acting like I committed a crime. It was a birthday party. I was having fun. "At your husband's expense," Paul said quietly. "At your daughter's expense. At your entire family's expense." If Marcus had a problem with it, he should have said something. He did say something. You ignored him. Because he was being ridiculous. Paul stood up, shaking his head. "You still don't get it, do you? You still think this is everyone else's problem." After Paul left, Marcus disappeared into his office again. I tried the door, but it was locked as usual. I pressed my ear against it and could hear him typing, the sound rhythmic and determined. Wednesday morning brought a call from my mother. "Odessa, your father and I saw the video online. We need to talk." "Not you too, Mom." "Yes, me too. What were you thinking? That poor man sitting there while that boy... It was disgraceful." "It wasn't disgraceful. It was a party. It was a public humiliation. For Marcus, for Sienna, for our entire family. People are calling us, asking if we've seen it, asking what kind of daughter we raised." The conversation ended with my mother in tears, and me feeling more isolated than ever. Even my own parents were turning against me. That afternoon, I made a decision. I was going to take control of the narrative. I created a Facebook post explaining my side of the story, talking about how a harmless birthday celebration had been twisted into something ugly by gossips and troublemakers. "I'm a grown woman who was celebrating her birthday with friends and family," I wrote. "If some people can't handle seeing someone have fun, that says more about them than it does about me. My marriage is strong, my family is happy, and I refuse to apologize for living my life." The post got immediate attention, but not the kind I'd hoped for. Instead of support, I got more criticism, more judgment, more screenshots shared to gossip groups with mocking commentary. She still doesn't get it. Delusional. Her poor husband. Someone should show this to her lawyer. Oh wait, she'll probably need one soon. That last comment sent a chill down my spine. I tried to dismiss it, but something about it felt ominous, like the commenter knew something I didn't. Thursday evening, I came home to find Marcus in the kitchen with a man I didn't recognize. They were sitting at our table, documents spread between them, speaking in low, serious tones. Odessa, Marcus stood as I entered. This is David Chen, my attorney. My blood turned to ice. Your attorney? We were just finishing up, the lawyer said, gathering his papers. I'll have those documents ready for you by Friday, Marcus. Documents. My voice was barely a whisper. I'll call you tomorrow, David said, shaking Marcus's hand before nodding politely at me and leaving. Marcus, what documents? What's going on? He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, calm, resolved, almost peaceful. What's going on, Odessa, is that I'm protecting my family, something I should have done weeks ago. Protecting us from what? From the consequences of your choices, from the damage you've done to our reputation, our marriage, our daughter's well-being. I haven't damaged anything. This is all being blown out of proportion. Marcus walked to his office and returned with a thick folder. He set it on the table between us. This folder contained screenshots of every social media post about the video, every comment, every share, every cruel thing that's been said about our family. It contains printouts of the discussions in Sienna's school groups, where parents are questioning your fitness as a mother. It contains records of the calls my work has received from clients who recognize me from the video. It contains documentation of every lie you've told, every excuse you've made, every time you've blamed everyone else for the consequences of your own actions. I stared at the folder, my hands shaking. What are you going to do with it? What I have to do? What I should have done the night you let another man put his hands all over you while our daughter watched? Marcus, please, we can fix this. I can delete the posts, make it go away. You can't delete the internet, Odessa. You can't take back the humiliation. You can't undo the damage to Sienna's reputation at school. You can't repair what you've broken. So what? You're going to divorce me over a birthday party. Marcus's smile was sad but determined. I'm going to divorce you because you still think this was just a birthday party. That night I lay awake listening to Marcus sleep peacefully beside me, the folder of evidence sitting on his nightstand like a loaded gun. Everything I'd dismissed as harmless fun, every consequence I'd blamed on other people's jealousy, every moment I'd thought I was getting away with something, it was all coming back to destroy me. And the worst part was, I was finally starting to understand that I'd done it all to myself. Chapter 4. The calm before the storm. Friday morning arrived with an ominous quiet. Marcus was already gone when I woke up, his side of the bed cold and precisely made. No note, no goodbye, just the lingering scent of his cologne and the sound of Sienna getting ready for school in her room. "Where's Daddy?" she asked over breakfast, picking at her cereal. "He had an early meeting, sweetheart." "He's always having meetings now. Is he getting a new job?" "I don't know, baby. Maybe." But I had a sinking feeling that Marcus's meetings had nothing to do with work and everything to do with the folder of evidence that had disappeared from his nightstand overnight. At the office, the atmosphere had shifted from awkward whispers to outright avoidance. Even Jennifer, who'd been my closest work friend for 3 years, barely acknowledged me. During my lunch break, I discovered why. Someone had sent the link to my defensive Facebook post to my supervisor. Mr. Richardson called me into his office again, his expression grim. "Odessa, we need to discuss your social media presence." "It's my personal account. What I post on my own time is my business. Not when it reflects on the company, not when clients are calling to complain, not when you're representing Midwest Mutual in a way that contradicts our values. What values? The value of judging people for having fun at their own birthday parties. The values of professionalism, discretion, and respect for family institutions. Values that our client base expects from our employees. I felt the walls closing in. Are you firing me? I'm placing you on administrative leave pending a review of your conduct, with pay for now. But Odessa, I strongly suggest you use this time to consider whether your current approach to this situation is serving your best interests. I drove home in a daze, my career now hanging by a thread because of one stupid video. But as I pulled into my driveway, I saw Gina's car parked outside again, and my day was about to get much worse. She was in my living room with Marcus, both of them sitting across from Sienna, who looked small and confused on the big couch. "What's going on?" I demanded. "We're having a family meeting," Gina said coldly, "about the changes that are coming." "What changes?" Marcus stood up, his expression calm but final. "Sienna, why don't you go play in your room while the adults talk?" "But I want to know what's happening," she protested. "I'll explain everything to you later, sweetheart. I promise." After Sienna reluctantly left, Marcus turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not hurt, but completely resolved. "I've filed for divorce, Odessa." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You what?" "I filed the paperwork this morning. You'll be served officially on Monday, but I wanted to tell you myself, out of respect for what we used to have." "Marcus, you can't be serious. Over a birthday party? Over some stupid gossip?" "This isn't about a birthday party. This isn't about gossip. This is about the fact that you publicly humiliated our family and then spent 3 weeks blaming everyone else for the consequences. I can change. I can fix this." "How? How are you going to fix the fact that our daughter's classmates are calling her mother names? How are you going to fix the fact that I can't show my face at family gatherings without people whispering? How are you going to fix the fact that you've been carrying on an emotional affair with my childhood friend for months?" I stared at him, my mouth opening and closing like a fish. How did I know about the texts, the secret coffee dates, the complaints about how boring I am? "Because I've been paying attention, Odessa. I've been documenting everything." Gina spoke up from her chair. "I told him months ago that something was wrong. A mother knows when her son is being betrayed." "Betrayed? I never slept with Elliot." "You didn't have to," Marcus said quietly. "You betrayed our marriage emotionally long before that video was made. The birthday party was just the moment you decided to make it public." I sank into a chair, my legs giving out. "Marcus, please. We can go to counseling. We can work this out." "I tried to work it out. I tried to talk to you about my concerns, about the inappropriate texts, about the way you were pulling away from our family. Every time I brought it up, you told me I was being paranoid or controlling or boring. Because you were. You were making something out of nothing." "Was I?" "Because the nothing I was worried about became a viral video of my wife letting another man grope her while I sat there watching. The nothing became a regional scandal that's affecting our daughter's life at school." Gina leaned forward. "Odessa, I'm going to say this once, and I want you to listen carefully. My son has been more patient with you than any man should have to be. He's given you every opportunity to recognize what you are doing to your family and make it right. Instead, you've doubled down on your selfishness and blamed everyone else for your problems." "I'm not selfish. I'm just trying to live my life." "At the expense of everyone else's life," she replied. "At the expense of your husband's dignity, your daughter's reputation, your family's peace. That's the definition of selfishness." Marcus pulled out a manila envelope and set it on the coffee table. "These are copies of the papers you'll be served on Monday. I wanted you to have time to find a lawyer." "I don't want a lawyer. I want my husband." "Your husband died the night you chose another man's attention over his feelings. I'm just making it official." I grabbed the envelope with shaking hands and pulled out the documents. The language was formal and cold, but the message was clear. Marcus wanted a divorce. primary custody of Sienna, and division of assets based on my misconduct during the marriage. Misconduct? What misconduct? Adultery, emotional infidelity, public humiliation of the family, failure to maintain appropriate boundaries with members of the opposite sex. Should I continue? But I never actually cheated. You cheated emotionally. You carried on an inappropriate relationship with another man while married to me. You allowed that relationship to escalate to physical contact in public. In legal terms, that's adultery. I felt like I was drowning. What about Sienna? You can't take her away from me. I'm not taking her away. I'm providing her with a stable home environment where she won't be subjected to public scandal and inappropriate behavior. I'm her mother. Then act like it. Act like a mother who puts her child's well-being above her own need for attention and validation. The meeting ended with me alone in my living room, divorce papers scattered on the coffee table, my world crumbling around me. Marcus had moved with surgical precision, documenting every mistake, every poor choice, every moment of selfishness, and turning it into a legal case against me. That evening, I tried calling Elliot, desperate for some support, some validation that I wasn't the monster everyone was making me out to be. But his phone went straight to voicemail. I tried Talia next, but even my sister's support was wavering. Odessa, maybe you should consider what Marcus is saying. Maybe this whole thing has gotten out of hand. Not you too, Talia. I thought you were on my side. I am on your side. That's why I'm telling you to look at this honestly. You've been complaining about Marcus for months, flirting with Elliot, meeting him for coffee behind Marcus's back. The birthday party was just the final straw. Those were just harmless conversations. Were they? Because I saw some of those texts, remember? You were pretty explicit about your feelings for Elliot and your problems with Marcus. I hung up, feeling more isolated than ever. Even my own sister was turning against me. Saturday morning, I woke up to find Marcus packing a suitcase in our bedroom. Where are you going? Paul's house. I'll be staying there until the divorce is finalized. You're leaving me? I left you weeks ago, Odessa. I just hadn't made it official yet. What about Sienna? She'll stay here with you during the week, with me on weekends, until the custody hearing. After that, he shrugged, we'll see what the judge decides. As Marcus loaded his car, Sienna cried on the front porch, not understanding why Daddy was leaving. I tried to comfort her, but how could I explain something I didn't understand myself? It's going to be okay, baby, I whispered, holding her tight. Mummy's going to fix this. But as I watched Marcus drive away without looking back, I realized I had no idea how to fix anything. I'd burned every bridge, alienated every ally, and destroyed every relationship that mattered. The calm, methodical man I'd dismissed as boring had outmaneuvered me completely. While I'd been playing games and seeking attention, he'd been building a case that would end our marriage and possibly cost me my daughter. And the worst part was, I was finally starting to understand that I deserved it. Chapter 5. The receipts surface. Monday morning arrived like a death sentence. I'd barely slept, spending the weekend alternating between panic and desperate attempts to reach Elliot, who seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. His phone went straight to voicemail. His social media accounts had gone silent, and when I drove by his apartment complex, his car wasn't there. At 9:47 a.m., while I was sitting in my kitchen drinking my fourth cup of coffee and staring at the divorce papers, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a business suit holding a clipboard and an envelope. Odessa Vining? Yes. You've been served. The envelope felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Inside were the official divorce papers, along with a temporary restraining order that made my blood run cold. I was prohibited from contacting Elliot Drew, from posting about the case on social media, and from removing Sienna from the county without written permission. But it was the attached exhibit list that made me sink to the floor right there in my entryway. Exhibit A, Video evidence from birthday celebration March 15th, with metadata. Exhibit B, text message communications between O. Vining and E. Drew, January-March. Exhibit C, social media posts and comments regarding marital relationship. Exhibit D, financial records showing unexplained expenditures. Exhibit E, witness statements from family members and restaurant staff. Exhibit F, evidence of attempts to delete digital communications. The list went on for 2 pages. Marcus hadn't just been collecting evidence. He'd been building a fortress of documentation that painted me as an unfaithful wife, an unfit mother, and a public embarrassment. I called the one lawyer I knew, Janet Morrison, who'd handled our house closing years ago. Her secretary was polite but firm. Mrs. Morrison doesn't handle divorce cases, but I can refer you to someone who does. By noon, I was sitting in the office of Robert Hayes, a divorce attorney who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Vining, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a very strong case your husband has built. But I never actually cheated on him. In the state of Illinois, emotional infidelity can be grounds for divorce, especially when there's evidence of physical contact and public humiliation. The video alone is damaging, but combined with the text messages... He shook his head. Did you really tell this Elliot person that your husband was boring in bed and boring in life? My face burned. That was private. How is that admissible? Because you sent it through a messaging app on a phone that was part of your marital assets. Technically, your husband had legal access to that device. So he was spying on me? He was protecting his interests in a marriage where he suspected infidelity, and based on this evidence, his suspicions were correct. I left the lawyer's office feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. The retainer fee alone was more money than I had, especially with my job in jeopardy. And even if I could afford to fight, Hayes had made it clear that Marcus's case was nearly airtight. That afternoon brought a new humiliation. I was at the grocery store, trying to maintain some semblance of normal life, when I ran into Sarah, Paul's wife. Odessa. Her voice was cold as ice. Sarah, hi, how are the kids? They're fine, confused about why their Uncle Marcus is staying in our guest room, but fine. I'm sure Marcus explained. Oh, he explained plenty, about the months of inappropriate texts with his supposed friend, about the public humiliation at your birthday party, about how you've spent weeks blaming everyone else for the consequences of your own actions. I felt other shoppers turning to stare. Sarah, please. This is neither the time nor the place. You're right. The time was months ago when you should have been acting like a wife and mother instead of a teenager looking for attention. The place was in private, not splashed all over the internet for everyone to see. She walked away, leaving me standing alone in the cereal aisle with a cart full of groceries and a face burning with shame. Tuesday brought the news I'd been dreading. Elliot finally returned my calls, but the conversation was nothing like what I'd hoped for. Elle, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. We need to talk about what's happening with Marcus. We don't need to talk about anything, Odessa. I'm done. Done with what? Done with this whole mess. Done with you. Done pretending this was ever going to end well. But you were there too. You were part of everything that happened. I was a single guy flirting with a married woman who was throwing herself at me. You were a married woman with a husband and a kid who chose to humiliate her family in public. We're not the same. You can't just abandon me now. Watch me. I've already told Marcus's lawyer that I won't be contesting any of the evidence they have. I've provided my own statement about our interactions, and I've made it clear that I want no further contact with you or anyone in your family. The line went dead. Elliot, who'd been so eager to encourage my rebellious behavior when it was fun and exciting, had disappeared the moment there were real consequences. Wednesday brought the most devastating blow yet. I was called into another meeting with Mr. Richardson, this time with the HR director present. Odessa, we've completed our review of your conduct and its impact on the company. And we're terminating your employment, effective immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. You're firing me? Over a personal matter that has nothing to do with my work. It has everything to do with your work when clients are calling to complain, when your behavior reflects poorly on our company values, and when you're unable to maintain the professional standards we require. This is discrimination. This is consequence, the HR director said firmly. You chose to engage in behavior that brought negative attention to yourself and, by extension, to this company. You chose to defend that behavior publicly instead of addressing it appropriately. These were your choices, and now you're experiencing the results of those choices. I cleaned out my desk while my former co-workers watched in uncomfortable silence. 8 years with the company, gone because of one stupid video. That evening, I sat in my empty house. Marcus had taken more of his belongings while I was at work and tried to make sense of how my life had fallen apart so completely. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a married woman with a stable job and a comfortable life. Now I was facing divorce, unemployment, and the very real possibility of losing custody of my daughter. My phone buzzed with a text from Talia. Mum and Dad want to talk to you. They're coming over tomorrow. The conversation with my parents was every bit as awful as I'd expected. Odessa, we've been getting calls, my mother said, her eyes red from crying. People from church, neighbors, your father's co-workers. Everyone's seen that video. I'm sorry you're embarrassed. This isn't about embarrassment, my father exploded. This is about you destroying your family. That man gave you everything, a beautiful home, a stable marriage, a precious daughter, and you threw it all away for what? For attention from some boy who won't even return your phone calls now. Daddy, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand that my daughter chose to humiliate her husband in public, carry on with another man, and then blame everyone else when there were consequences. I understand that my granddaughter is crying herself to sleep because her family is falling apart. What I don't understand is how we raise someone who could be so selfish. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. Honey, it's not too late. You could apologize to Marcus, really apologize. You could get counseling, change your behavior. He's already filed for divorce, Mum. It's too late for apologies. It's too late because you waited too long to offer them, my father said sadly. You had weeks to make this right, and instead you made it worse. Thursday brought a new level of isolation. Friends had stopped calling, co-workers were no longer co-workers, and even my family was pulling away. I spent the day cleaning house obsessively, trying to create some sense of order in my chaotic life. That evening, while going through old photo albums, I found pictures from happier times. Marcus and me on our wedding day, both of us glowing with hope and love. Family vacations where we looked genuinely happy. Birthday parties from previous years, where Marcus's smile was real and warm, not the cold, distant expression he'd worn at my last celebration. Looking at those photos, I finally began to see what I'd lost. Not just a marriage, but a partnership. Not just a husband, but a man who'd loved me completely and whom I'd taken for granted until it was too late. My phone rang, interrupting my melancholy. It was Marcus. We need to talk about Sienna's schedule next week. I'm picking her up Friday after school and keeping her through Sunday. Marcus, can we please talk about us? About what's happening? There is no us anymore, Odessa. There's just the logistics of co-parenting and the divorce proceedings. But I love you. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. You loved the security I provided. You loved having someone to take care of the boring parts of life while you looked for excitement elsewhere. But you didn't love me enough to respect our marriage or consider my feelings. That's not true. It is true, and the saddest part is, I think you're finally starting to realize it. Friday morning, I watched through the window as Marcus picked up Sienna for their weekend together. She ran to him with joy, her face lighting up in a way it hadn't since he'd moved out. As they drove away, I realized that my daughter was happier with her father than she'd been with me in weeks. I was losing everything that mattered, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I was starting to understand that I deserved to lose it. The calm, boring man I'd dismissed and betrayed had outplayed me completely. While I'd been seeking attention and validation from other men, he'd been quietly building a case that would cost me my marriage, my job, my reputation, and possibly my daughter. And the most devastating part was that he'd done it all legally, methodically, and with the kind of patience and intelligence I'd never appreciated when I had the chance. Chapter 6. The Last Birthday. The courthouse steps felt like walking to my own execution. It was a crisp October morning, exactly 7 months after my birthday party, and I was about to face the final hearing in my divorce case. My lawyer, Robert Hayes, walked beside me with the resigned air of a man who knew he was fighting a losing battle. "Remember," he said quietly, "answer only what's asked. Don't elaborate, don't get defensive, and whatever you do, don't try to justify your actions. The judge has already seen all the evidence." All the evidence. The phrase had haunted me for months. Marcus's methodical documentation had grown into a file that was now 3 inches thick, chronicling every text message, every deleted photo, every lie I'd told, and every moment of public humiliation I'd inflicted on our family. Inside the courtroom, I saw Marcus sitting with his attorney, David Chen, looking calm and professional in a navy suit. Behind him sat his family, Gina, Paul, Sarah, and even some cousins I hadn't seen in years. Their presence was a silent testimony to the support system I'd alienated through my own actions. On my side of the courtroom, the seats were mostly empty. Talia had come, but she sat near the back, her face a mask of uncomfortable loyalty. My parents had chosen not to attend, too embarrassed by the public nature of the proceedings. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams. Judge Williams was a stern-looking woman in her 50s who had a reputation for no-nonsense rulings in family court. She'd already reviewed all the evidence during the preliminary hearings, and her expression suggested she'd formed some strong opinions about my case. "We're here today for the final hearing in the matter of Vining versus Vining," she began. "I've reviewed all submitted evidence, witness statements, and exhibits. Mr. Chen, you may proceed with your final arguments." Marcus's lawyer stood and approached the bench with the confidence of a man who held all the winning cards. "Your Honor, the evidence in this case paints a clear picture of a marriage destroyed by the defendant's pattern of infidelity, public humiliation, and complete disregard for her family's well-being." He gestured to a large monitor where the birthday video began playing. Even now, months later, watching myself laugh while Elliot's hands roamed over my body made me sick. But worse was seeing Marcus's face in the background, the hurt, the humiliation, the moment when something died in his eyes. This video, which the defendant allowed to be filmed and initially encouraged to be shared on social media, represents the culmination of months of inappropriate behavior. But it's not an isolated incident. The screen changed to display screenshots of my text conversations with Elliot, messages I'd thought were deleted forever, recovered by Marcus's forensic software. Messages where I'd complained about my husband being boring, where I'd encouraged Elliot's advances, where I'd made plans to meet him secretly. January 15th. Marcus is working late again. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? February 3rd. He's so focused on his boring spreadsheets, he doesn't even notice when I get dressed up anymore. February 18th. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd married someone more exciting. Each message felt like a knife twisting in my chest. Seeing my own words displayed in a courtroom, read aloud by a lawyer, made me realize how cruel I'd been to the man who'd loved me. The defendant's behavior escalated over time, culminating in the public incident that has caused lasting damage to the family's reputation and, most importantly, to the well-being of the minor child involved. The screen showed screenshots from various social media posts and news articles about the video. Headlines like, "Local Mum's Birthday, bash goes viral, and inappropriate public display sparks divorce filled the monitor. Mrs. Sienna Vining, age 8, has been subjected to teasing at school, questions from classmates, and the trauma of watching her family torn apart by her mother's actions. School counselor reports indicate that the child has experienced anxiety, sleep disturbances, and academic difficulties directly related to the public scandal surrounding her mother's behavior. I felt tears streaming down my face as I listened to the impact my actions had on my innocent daughter. Sienna, who'd defended me to her classmates, who'd asked why Daddy was sad, who'd cried when Marcus moved out, she was paying the price for my selfishness. Furthermore, Your Honor, the defendant has shown no genuine remorse for her actions. Instead of accepting responsibility, she has consistently blamed others, the media for covering the story, family members for being judgmental, even her husband for not stopping her inappropriate behavior. The lawyer pulled out a folder of documents. These are transcripts from the defendant's social media posts following the incident, where she describes the situation as harmless fun and accuses critics of being jealous and bitter. Even as recently as last month, the defendant posted on Facebook that she was being persecuted for living her life. I cringed remembering that post. I'd written it in a moment of frustration, but seeing it quoted in court made me realize how tone-deaf it sounded. The plaintiff, Mr. Marcus Vining, has demonstrated remarkable restraint and dignity throughout this ordeal. Rather than retaliating or engaging in public disputes, he is focused on protecting his daughter and preserving evidence through proper legal channels. The screen showed a timeline of Marcus's actions, his careful documentation, his consultation with attorneys, his methodical approach to building a case. While I'd been posting angry rants on social media, he'd been quietly ensuring that justice would be served. Mr. Vining seeks primary custody of the minor child, with supervised visitation for the defendant until she can demonstrate that she understands the impact of her actions and is committed to putting her daughter's well-being above her own desires for attention and validation. When it was my lawyer's turn to speak, Robert Hayes did his best with an impossible case. Your Honor, Mrs. Vining acknowledges that mistakes were made. The birthday incident was a lapse in judgment, exacerbated by alcohol and the celebratory atmosphere. However, she maintains that her love for her daughter is unwavering and that she deserves the opportunity to remain an active part of her child's life. But even as he spoke, I could see that Judge Williams was unmoved. The evidence against me was too overwhelming, too well documented, too damning. Mrs. Vining, the judge addressed me directly, do you have anything you'd like to say before I render my decision? I stood on shaking legs, looking across the courtroom at Marcus. His expression was calm, almost peaceful, as if he'd already found closure regardless of what happened next. Your Honor, I know I made terrible mistakes. I know I hurt my husband and my daughter and my family. I was selfish and stupid, and I let my need for attention destroy everything that mattered to me. My voice broke as I continued. I can't take back what I did. I can't undo the humiliation or the pain I caused. But I love my daughter more than anything in this world, and I'm begging you not to take her away from me completely. Judge Williams studied me for a long moment before speaking. Mrs. Vining, this court has rarely seen such a comprehensive documentation of marital misconduct. Your husband has presented evidence of emotional infidelity, public humiliation, financial deception, and a complete disregard for your family's well-being. She paused, looking down at the thick file of evidence. More troubling than your actions, however, is your response to the consequences of those actions. Rather than accepting responsibility and seeking to make amends, you have spent months blaming others, minimizing your behavior, and portraying yourself as a victim of circumstances you created. My heart sank as I realized what was coming. Therefore, this court grants the plaintiff's request for divorce on grounds of adultery and irreconcilable differences. Primary custody of the minor child is awarded to Mr. Marcus Vining, with supervised visitation for the defendant every other weekend, pending completion of court-ordered counseling and parenting classes. The gavel came down like a gunshot, finalizing the destruction of my life. Furthermore, the defendant is ordered to pay child support in the amount of $800 per month and is prohibited from posting about this case or the family on social media. All digital evidence presented in this case is to be permanently preserved as part of the court record. As people began filing out of the courtroom, I sat frozen in my chair. It was over. My marriage, my family, my old life, all of it was officially dead. Marcus approached me as I gathered my things, his expression not triumphant but sad. "Odessa, I want you to know that I don't hate you. I'm not happy about how this ended." "Then why?" I whispered. "Why did you have to destroy me so completely?" "I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure there was a record of it." He paused, looking at me with something that might have been pity. "You had every opportunity to stop this, every chance to recognize what you were doing to our family, and choose differently. Instead, you chose to double down on your selfishness every single time. I know that now. I know I was wrong about everything. Do you? Because even now, you're focused on what this cost you, not on what it cost Sienna. Even now, you're thinking about your own pain instead of the damage you did to an innocent child." His words hit like a slap because they were true. Even in this moment of ultimate consequence, my first thought was about my own loss, not my daughter's trauma. "I hope you use this time to figure out who you really want to be," Marcus said quietly. "Because the woman who let another man grope her while her husband and daughter watched, who spent months lying and manipulating and blaming everyone else for her choices, that woman doesn't deserve to be anyone's wife or mother." He walked away, leaving me alone in the empty courtroom with nothing but the echo of my own choices. That evening, I sat in my empty house. Marcus had been awarded the family home, and I had 30 days to find somewhere else to live, surrounded by boxes and the remnants of a life I'd thrown away. On the mantel where family photos used to sit, there was now a stack of court documents. Legal papers had replaced birthday memories. Custody schedules had replaced anniversary celebrations. The judge's order had replaced wedding vows. I picked up the final decree, reading the cold legal language that described the end of my marriage. Irreconcilable differences, pattern of adultery, failure to maintain appropriate marital boundaries. Each phrase was a nail in the coffin of the life I'd once had. My phone buzzed with a text from Sienna, sent from Marcus's phone. "I love you, Mummy. Daddy says I can see you this weekend if I want to." If she wanted to. My own daughter now had a choice about whether to spend time with me, and the fact that she was being given that choice told me everything about how far I'd fallen. I looked around the empty house one more time, at the boxes packed with the fragments of my old life, at the legal documents that had replaced family photos, at the silence where laughter used to be. The last birthday party I'd ever share with Marcus had cost me everything. The joke that wasn't funny had become the punchline to my entire marriage. The moment I'd chosen another man's attention over my husband's dignity had been the moment I'd chosen to lose everything that mattered. And the most devastating part was that Marcus had been right about everything. I had destroyed myself piece by piece, choice by choice, lie by lie. He had simply been patient enough to document it all, and strong enough to demand justice when I refused to demand it of myself. The birthday celebrations were over. The candles had been blown out. The party was finally, definitively, permanently finished.